welcome to the Coach's Call. Thanks for being here. If you enjoy being here, please consider clicking the subscribe button so we can spend some more time together. Much appreciated for you listening. So the NHL playoffs are over. The Las Vegas Golden Knights are your 2023 Stanley Cup champions. And I've been looking at the fallout, at the aftermath, if you will, and these were the least watched playoffs and finals since I believe 2007, based on some statistics that are out there. And what goes with that, I've been doing a little bit of data mining in terms of what fans and observers are saying about the 2023 playoffs. And I've got the top 10 reasons why this might be, or what fans are citing as why this might be the least watched playoffs since 2007. So let's go. Number 10, commentary. The play-by-play was viewed as stale, lopsided, and biased. Now, I can't argue. I said on a couple of shows, listening to Chris Cuthbert on Sportsnet, during some of those series was kind of hard. He had that bit of a root going for some teams more than others, and it was hard to listen to. It was hard to stomach. And so folks are saying, look at, and I saw some things on the ESPN commentators as well, going, oh, it was really hard to digest what the commentators were selling. It just seemed overly scripted, not authentic, very lopsided. Okay, fine. Number 9. Number 9 and 8 are a little bit closer, but I'll explain. Number 9, credibility. The Las Vegas team is viewed as, a fabricated team, if you will, a team that was made up for marketing purposes only. Kind of like how people might talk about a band sometimes that doesn't do what it says it's supposed to do, or that, there's an aura built around them. Milli Vanilli, and I'm sorry, Milli and Vanilli, but they're kind of more show than substance. Now I know, look at Las Vegas is the Stanley Cup champions. You're gonna say, hey, there's substance there. But the way they're viewed, Las Vegas is just viewed as a fabricated team, something that was made by the corporate, and that leads a little bit, foreshadowing here, leads a little bit into what folks feel like what represents Gary Bettman's agenda. I'm not saying he has an agenda. I'm just saying to you, based on the commentary, the data that was mined, there's this type of feeling towards Gary and the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Okay. Now I said number 8's a little bit close. Posers. Fan view Las Vegas as a circus because of what Las Vegas is on the Strip. It hasn't had time to grow as a market outside of the fan base. Okay. Florida was seen as a bit of an underdog without a chance at times, willed on by the resurgence of their goalie, Sergei Bobrovsky. Okay. And they kind of had that going for them. But the Las Vegas team is just, they had that fanfare, the lights and the fireworks, and it just, the presentation of them outside of that fan base hockey market was just not seen the same way. It just hasn't been, the hockey fans haven't had time to digest the Las Vegas market, even though it's been 6 years. Okay. Now, number 7, extended playoffs. The playoffs take too long. Some fans are saying, look, they span from April through May and even June. It seems to be too long for some people to focus on what's actually going on. You throw in some of the other things I'm going to talk about, and it makes sense that there's a loss of interest. The playoffs are viewed as too long of a process, spanning these 2 to 3 months in time after an 80-plus game season. And with all other sports going on, it's just too easy to tune it out. In a world where, we have in this season all these other sports going on, and in a world where we live in 15-second or 15-minute clips, 3 months of a playoff season can seem like a long time to invest to find out an outcome that is surrounded by so much other noise that fans are basically tuning it out. I tend to agree. It is a bit of an extended duration. Now, I love hockey. I could go with another round, but that's just my approach to it. And I can see where the larger fan base might say too long for me to keep interested, especially with what else is going on. Okay, close behind the length of the season is the scheduling of the games, with sometimes multiple days between them, and then a stretch of a week before the finals kick off. Some fans they just forget about the games. There isn't that same marketing either in some cities as others. And if your city is out of it, the coverage wanes. You look at the Toronto Maple Leafs. Dare I talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs, okay? But you look at the Toronto Maple Leafs, the interest wanes if the Toronto Maple Leafs aren't in it. And some fans are saying, well, what if you had a Toronto and Vegas final? Then you'd have all the numbers you'd want in the TV world, right? Yeah, maybe you would. But you can't just pick up the Toronto Maple Leafs and put them in the finals. Why can't you? See, some folks are going to say, you go back to the Gary Bettman agenda. That's what they did with the Vegas Golden Knights. They got, and well, look, they had to play hockey. They still had to win. I get it. You got all these reasons why they had help. Folks, what I'm seeing online is schedule. Folks are struggling with that time between them, and they're struggling with the marketing of the team, okay? There's a lot of hate directed at the constant barrage of betting commercials, with some fans changing the channel or walking away. It's just too much. It's on the boards during the gameplay. It's in between periods. It's in game breaks. Fans aren't connecting with the constant reminder to bet, bet, bet. I don't like it either. It's just too much, okay? I can't believe that this is an issue, but it is. Not everyone has access to the games. How content is consumed has changed, and without certain TV deals in place, a lack of streaming service, and market blackouts, some fans found it hard to find. And they didn't want to go through the extra effort to either, because they're saying, look, you want me to consume your product? I'm willing to, but make it easy. I'm not willing to go the extra effort based on all these other things I think suck about your league. So make it easy for me. Some fans, they tried some alternate non-paying services, but those degraded, the overall experience for obvious reasons. If it's not easy to find, people won't invest the time to do it either. And we're getting into hardcore fan-based stuff now, okay? When we start talking about the format, the seeding of teams and how they're arranged in the playoffs, where you have maybe two of the best teams through the season facing off against each other really early in the playoffs, and when one gets ousted, it brings the quality of the season series down. Now, one could argue and say, look at the Florida Panthers. True, but at the same time, they didn't have the depth to finish the job. A lot like the Montreal Canadiens in 2021, right? The format has long been discussed and it's never really been addressed, but fans have taken notice and said, you know what? I'm getting some of the best hockey in round one, not in the Stanley Cup Finals. Maybe not even in round three. Okay. Number 3, video replay. Those who managed to watch the game were often confused with video replay calls. There was too much inconsistency in what was a goal and what wasn't. It was too hard to understand the rules around video replay, and analysts didn't help much as they often disagreed with each other on the calls. The NHL has a video replay issue when it comes to both goals and discipline. It's inconsistent, okay? And that last piece, discipline, brings me to number 2, and that's officiating. The officiating was outright bad. In the same game, a player could get mugged in front of the ref and there's no call. And then moments later, another player gets 2 minutes for interference, hooking or tripping for brushing up against an opponent. Come on. The fans lost trust in how the game was officiated. At times it felt lopsided, like they wanted a certain team to win. This fed the idea that Gary Bettman is behind it because there's a mistrust for him and his agenda. That's the perception that fans are talking about. Look, I harp on the reffing all the time, and for good reason, not just when it's a team I might like, as my panel colleagues often try to force feed into the narrative. Well, you're like the Montreal Canadiens. Look, the Montreal Canadiens were not even in the playoffs this year, okay? And these guys were still trying to ram that narrative, into my criticism. if you will, of the referees, okay? The reffing was bad all around. And tie into that the suspension or non-suspensions, and the league creates an environment where the fans don't trust the rule makers and those who are supposed to enforce them. The greatest consistency the officiating had was its inconsistency. And it's wrong to say, well, it all balances out in the end, or they're human and they'll make mistakes. Look, I get it. But that's why we have two officials on the ice, right? That's why we have video replay that should have nonpartisan officials following the same rules every single time. Look, for me, officiating was probably number one, but I just looked at what everybody else was talking about online and put the list together, okay? Number one, trust. And you saw this sprinkled in all through the top 10. I alluded to a few times, but the number one reason folks cited for tuning out the NHL was trust. They didn't trust Gary Bettman. They don't think he's authentic. They don't see him as genuine. They see him as force-feeding hockey markets, influencing game outcomes, having reasons for one team being more successful than others, building a network of owners that is a closed group that lacks innovation, that's focused on following insider rules, that have a bar that moves based on their closed agendas. The NHL lacks trust from a lot of fans. Some saying, why bother? It's predetermined. Gary gets what Gary wants. The officiating is lopsided, right? It's predetermined. You see how they're doing. The video replay is inconsistent. You know, it comes down to trust. That's the number one reason folks were talking about online when they were talking about, why did you not watch the playoffs this year? Why did your interest wane in the playoffs? So folks, look, I'm not saying that these things are all the things. I'm just saying this is what fans are talking about, okay? These are the top 10 things that people have said online based on my data mining that they say, I didn't watch the 2023 playoffs, or my interest waned as it went on. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for tuning in. That's the coach's call. Let's see what happens now moving towards the draft date on July 1st. Take care, everybody, and please subscribe. Take care. Bye-bye.